Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you work, no matter how much you earn, something is still holding you back from building real wealth? You make a decent salary. You might even be climbing the ladder. But month after month, year after year, the needle doesn't seem to move. Why? Because the truth is, getting rich isn't just about earning money. It's about recognizing and avoiding the hidden mental traps that keep you stuck at the starting line, even when you think you're moving forward. These traps aren't taught in schools. They're not discussed in financial articles, and nobody wants to admit they're falling for them, even though millions do, silently and painfully. In this video, I'm going to expose 5 hidden barriers that quietly sabotage your wealth, no matter how smart or capable you are. These aren't just financial mistakes. They are psychological blocks, behavioral patterns, and invisible beliefs that keep you poor even when you earn well. The last one is the most insidious because it's not about what you do. It's about who you believe you are. Stay with me. This might be the video that finally helps you break the cycle. 1. You confuse income with wealth, the illusion that keeps you broke. We live in a world obsessed with earnings, high salaries, 6-figure jobs, 7-figure founders. Income is glamorized everywhere, on LinkedIn posts, Instagram reels, podcast interviews. But here's what nobody says out loud. High income does not equal high wealth, and confusing the two is one of the fastest ways to stay broke while looking successful. Think about it. You know people who make $200,000 a year, but they're drowning in car payments, a giant mortgage, credit card debt, and zero savings. They look rich, but under the surface, they're one layoff away from financial disaster. Meanwhile, someone making $70,000, living well below their means, investing consistently and avoiding lifestyle creep, is quietly becoming a millionaire. This isn't theory, it's proven. A study by Thomas Stanley, author of The Millionaire Next Door, found that many true millionaires live in middle-class neighborhoods, drive used cars, and have average incomes. Why? Because they understand that income is just a stream. But wealth is a reservoir. Income comes and goes. Wealth stays, grows, compounds, and eventually gives you freedom. Let me be clear. Income is important, but it's only a tool. If you don't know how to control it, protect it, and grow it, it will vanish faster than it came. High earners often fall into the trap of spending at the level they earn. A raise becomes a new car. A bonus becomes a luxury vacation, and before they know it, they're running on a treadmill of appearances, not progress. Wealthy people, on the other hand, decouple their income from their lifestyle. They live on far less than they make. They buy assets before upgrades. They see every dollar not as something to spend, but as a little employee they can send out to work for them. That's how wealth grows, quietly, slowly, but powerfully. So ask yourself, if your income stopped today, how long could you live the way you live now? That's not just a financial question, that's a reality check. Because real wealth isn't how much you earn, it's how little you need to feel free. 2. You save out of fear but never invest with courage. The comfort zone that costs you everything. Saving money feels safe, it feels responsible, it feels like progress, and to a certain extent, it is. But here's the hidden trap most people fall into. They save money to feel secure, but they never invest it to build freedom. They're stuck in a cycle of protection, not multiplication. Fear drives this behavior, fear of loss, fear of risk, fear of making a mistake, so they keep their money in low-interest savings accounts, maybe a CD, maybe a high-yield account offering 4%, while inflation quietly eats their future alive. They confuse security with stagnation, and in doing so they trade growth for comfort. Maria from Houston worked hard and saved $80,000 over 15 years, but she never invested a dollar, afraid of losing everything. The result? After inflation, her money lost over 25% of its purchasing power. That same $80,000, if invested in a broad market ETF with an 8% annual return, could have become $254,000. The difference wasn't knowledge, it was fear, and it cost her decades of freedom. Here's what the wealthy understand. Saving is just step one. It protects your downside, but it's investing that creates upside. They use cash as a tool to seize opportunities, to buy assets, to generate passive income. They know that the greatest risk is not taking any risk at all, because the clock is always ticking and money sitting still is slowly dying. Think about this. If you save $1,000 a month for 30 years, you'll have $360,000. Not bad. But if you invest that same amount with an average 8% return, you'll have over $1.4 million. That's not a difference of strategy, that's a difference in mindset. One acts out of caution, the other out of conviction. So the next time you feel proud about how much you've saved, ask yourself, is your money working as hard as you are? Because if it's not, it's just sitting there quietly fading away while your fear holds the keys to a future you'll never reach. 3. You chase status instead of ownership, the expensive game that never ends. We live in a culture where looking rich is more important than being rich. Social media glorifies luxury, influencers push designer brands, and society rewards image over substance, and so millions of people fall into the trap. They chase status and ignore ownership. Here's how it works. You lease the luxury car to feel admired. You buy the watch to signal success. You rent the apartment in the trendiest neighborhood, not because it builds equity, but because it photographs well. The problem? None of it belongs to you. You're trading your future for likes, impressions, and fleeting validation from people who don't even know your name. Brian from Los Angeles earned $150,000 a year. He drove a new Audi, wore $500 shoes, and had a waterfront condo that he rented. At 37, he looked like a millionaire. But when he was laid off during an economic downturn, he had no investments, no assets, and no savings. The illusion crumbled in 30 days because image has zero resale value. The rich think differently. They chase control, not applause. Instead of spending $3,000 on a designer jacket, they buy $3,000 in dividend stocks. Instead of leasing a new BMW every 2 years, they own rental property that pays them every month. They don't need to flaunt because they own the game board. Ownership is status, the quiet kind that doesn't fade. It's not that wealth builders never enjoy nice things. They just do it in the right order. Assets first, luxuries later, and ideally paid for by cash flow from those assets. That's the difference. Most people buy luxuries first and wonder why the assets never come. So the next time you're tempted to buy something to impress people, pause. Ask yourself, will this give me freedom or just attention? Because one disappears quickly and the other compounds for life. 4. You think too short-term to build anything long-term? The mental trap of instant gratification. We've been conditioned to think in days, not decades. Likes, shares, same-day shipping, 15-second reels. Everything around us is built to stimulate urgency, not patience. And that's exactly why most people struggle to build wealth. They're making permanent decisions based on temporary feelings. Short-term thinking says, I want it now. Long-term thinking says, I'll wait to have more later. But here's the painful truth. Most people are stuck in a loop of now. They jump jobs for slightly higher salaries without ever building real skills. They sell investments the moment they dip. They spend today's money without even thinking about tomorrow's consequences. Tina from Florida cashed out her 401k after 6 years because she needed a break. She used it to fund a 6-month sabbatical, traveled the world, lived her dream. But 10 years later, that $60,000 would have been worth over $135,000. And now, she's starting from zero in her 40s. It wasn't a bad trip, it was just a high-interest vacation on her future. Wealthy people, on the other hand, operate with delayed gratification embedded in their DNA. They understand that compounding doesn't reward speed, it rewards consistency. They build things patiently: portfolios, businesses, brand equity, networks. They resist the dopamine rush of quick wins and stay focused on exponential returns. Here's something to consider. The average millionaire doesn't get there in 2 years. It takes 10, 20 years of disciplined, strategic action. That's not sexy. That doesn't make headlines. But it works. Long-term thinking isn't just about money. It's a mindset of planting seeds instead of picking weeds. So the next time you feel the pull of instant gratification, whether it's a flashy purchase, a rushed decision, or a shortcut, ask yourself, will this matter in 5 years or 5 minutes? Because real wealth doesn't come from moving fast. It comes from moving with intention. 5. You've internalized a poor identity, the silent program running your financial life. Most people don't realize this, but your financial reality is a reflection of something much deeper than your bank account. It's a reflection of your identity, the beliefs you hold about who you are, what you deserve, and what's possible for you. And if you've internalized a poor identity, no strategy will save you. Maybe you grew up hearing things like, money doesn't grow on trees, or rich people are greedy. Maybe you watched your parents stress over every bill, argue about expenses, or avoid any conversation about investing. Without even realizing it, those moments form the blueprint of your financial worldview, a worldview based on scarcity, fear, and limitation. Derek from Ohio always believed that wealth was for other people. Even after landing a 6-figure job in tech, he felt like an imposter. He didn't invest. He didn't build. He self-sabotaged, quietly and repeatedly, until his savings were gone and his debt was rising. The problem wasn't math. The problem was a subconscious belief that said, I'm not the kind of person who builds wealth. Rich people don't just think differently. They see themselves differently. They believe deep down that wealth is available, that money flows, that growth is possible, that they are worthy of building a powerful life. And that belief shapes every action they take. It's not just mindsets, it's identity architecture. You don't rise to the level of your plans. You fall to the level of your identity. If your inner dialogue sounds like, I'll never get ahead, or I'm just bad with money, or I'm not the investing type, stop and ask yourself, who taught you that? Whose story are you living? Because here's the good news, identity is not fixed. It's not your DNA, it's a script, and you can rewrite it. Affirm new truths. Surround yourself with people who think bigger. Take small, repeated actions that reflect the version of yourself you're becoming. Because wealth doesn't just start in your wallet, it starts in your mind. And if you keep thinking like a poor person, even $1 million won't change how you feel about yourself. We've been taught to chase money, to work harder, earn more, get the raise, close the deal. But wealth isn't built just by doing more. It's built by thinking differently and by clearing out the invisible blocks that quietly sabotage everything you do. Now you know the 5 traps that keep people broke, even the smart, the capable, the ambitious: confusing income with wealth, saving without investing, chasing status instead of ownership, thinking in days, not decades, and most dangerously of all, believing that wealth is for someone else, not for you. These aren't just financial mistakes, they are identity traps, mental habits, emotional defaults, and the longer you live inside them, the more normal they feel. But they're not normal. They're not facts. They're just stories you've accepted as truth. And today, you get to write a new one. So let me ask you something. Which one of these traps hit you the hardest? Drop a comment below. That's me, or now I see it. I read everyone. And I want to know which shift you're ready to make starting today. Because while most people are stuck in the cycle, working hard, spending fast, thinking small, you're waking up. You're building awareness. And that's where real wealth begins. Not in your paycheck, not in the market, but in the decision to never go back to who you were before this moment.